So, talking about independent and dependent variables. So when we're doing scatter plots, we're comparing two variables, right? How would we describe the relationship between two variables when we see it on a scatter plot? What do we see? Over to you. Anyone? Come on, don't you? Your voice will not be heard on my computer. It won't hear you. You've been writing it down on your worksheets the last couple of lessons. How do you describe a relationship? What does it mean? What are the words you use? Yes. Correlation. Good. The relationship is called a correlation. What kind of correlation can you have? Yeah, positive and negative, or neutral, no correlation. You open the floodgates there. Thank you very much. People started talking. All right. So we have a positive or a negative relationship. Could anyone tell me what it means to say two variables have a positive relationship? They both increase, yeah, or both decrease. Good. So positive relationship is when they do the same thing, right? So if one increases, that will look like it prompts an increase in the other one, right? So what does a negative relationship look like? Same old hands. Nick, did you want to get that one? No? There you go. Yeah. Right, so an increase in one variable promotes a decrease in the other one. Maybe. Right? I did mention to you briefly something called causality, which it might look like there's a relationship based on plotting the data on a scatter plot, but it might not necessarily be a direct interaction in that way. Okay, so we're looking at two variables where we're saying they could have a positive relationship, a negative relationship, or the neutral means what? Anyone? Yeah. So it looks like they're just all over the place on the scatter plot, so there is no relationship between the two. One of them does not look like it impacts the other at all. Right? So, what do we mean by independent and dependent variables? What's that about? Does anyone already know? Is there anyone that really doesn't know? I'm not going to ask you. I can ask everyone else. Don't know? Don't know? So most of you don't know if you don't know or do know. Or you're just not responding very well. Some people are staring directly forward like, please don't talk to me in any way, shape or form. Do you want to go for it? Okay. What does that mean? You can give me examples if that helps. So one, he said we've got a starting point. One depends on the other. Let me ask you this. If you are going to do well, sorry, I know you weren't in it, but no laptops unless you type notes, which I don't think you do. So we're making notes with paper and pen to get your book. If I said to you, you're going to be taking an assessment, I could say something like your result depends on something. Give me a something. How many hours you study? Anything else potentially? Yeah, I guess so. How many right answers I got on? Definitely. long you have to take the test? If you're working hard, working well, yeah. Anything else that might be? So they're definitely clear, aren't they? If you want to get a good result in your assessment, you need to work well, you need to put time into it. Is there anything that might be slightly less kind of direct, but still potentially could be dependent? Maybe some things that you don't really realise your good result will rely on or depend on. Yeah, so if I put more down on paper, if I show my working more, that might also help improve my result. Yeah? Anything that's got nothing to do with work. Yeah, could be. Like the neater my handwriting is, the better it is that could be read, potentially. Yeah, your level of focus. That's the one I was thinking of. How much sleep you had the night before. You know, if you were up till midnight studying, because that's the only time you study for the test tomorrow, yeah, A, you didn't put much time in studying, and B, you haven't had much sleep. Okay, so you're not going to do very well. Now, so this is where we've got a dependent and independent variable. Okay, so one of the variables, it looks like a change in that value depends entirely on another. Okay. All right. So let's write down a couple of things because it's also quite interesting to think about. The next one is, does it matter which way round they go? Which one's which? We'll get there in a sec if you've already got an answer. So just to write down a couple of things. Let's do, so my independent variable and dependent. What I'm going to get you to do is write down 3 of your own. Like some people already did this on Teams. So if you've already looked, you might have some examples. So for instance, we could say the independent variable, okay, is, should we say, hours of sleep. And then the dependent test score will be, dependent variable will be assessment result. I think that would be quite a good study to actually do. I think probably has already been done, is looking at the amount of hours of sleep and how rested you are. I know I've been reading a lot in terms of cycling, and there's a big thing that you wear that it tracks your sleep quality and all that kind of, and it gives you a recovery score the next morning based on how much sleep, and it tells you how good you're going to be for your next training. So quite good with school as well, you know. If you wake up and it's like really low, you probably know you're not going to have a good day at school. You know? So could you come up with 3 more? We've talked assessment result. Could you come up with some other ones yourself? Just 3. You can talk to each other if you want to do a comparison. I don't mind that. Try and come up with 3 of your own where we can look at an independent and independent. So which thing do you think will be affected by something else? Right. Does everyone understand what I'm asking for you? Just quickly. And you can write those down in your book. If you're a little bit unsure, do it in pencil or erasable pen, so you can rub them out if we go through, but it won't matter if they're wrong anyway. So 3 more, that's mine. You can write it down, so you'll have 4 in total. Come up with 3 of your own. Feel free to discuss, put your hand up, ask whether you think it's appropriate, and so on. Let's go for 5 minutes. So I think, what did Peely have? Effort in training, was it? Yeah, days training with results. I just results in games. What I would say is you're always going to get a result, but maybe you mean the number of good results in games. Yeah? So the more days I train, the more good result. Okay, you're awake, you're with us. Yeah? Some other examples that you've got, some good ones. Is that a hand up over there? No? Sorry, have I done that the wrong way around? So, time of day, and then temperature. That kind of works, doesn't that? Any others want to share? Yep. So, time spent reading a book, and then should we say time to finish the book, when you finish the book. Any others? Anything different? I mean, we've got the normal ones, which is temperature with ice cream sales. That was in your textbook, right? Anything else? No? If I said age of a tree is my independent, what could we go with as a dependent variable on that? Anything you like. You like? Size? Okay. She won't share it when we were just talking. Cost of a phone. You guys must have looked into this, I imagine. What affects the cost of a phone? Give me lots. Age, big, size, brand, accessories, memory. Say again. How many you buy? Yeah, you wanna. I have put cost of a phone though, rather than cost of lots of phones. But yeah, that would. The amount of money I spend and how many I buy. Yeah. So it's quality at the time. Where you buy it from. Okay. Looks, yeah. Number of cameras these days. Another class the other day we were talking about there that the iPhone 25 is going to be all cameras on the updates, yeah. Number of updates. So there's lots of things we could say here. Right, what's this? Now, the next question is, does it matter which goes on which? Does it matter which is the independent and the dependent? Right? I think yes. Go for it. Okay, so if we were to create our scatter plot, it has been, the convention is that this axis is the independent variable and this one's the dependent. And does it matter which one is called the dependent and independent? Yeah? I'll shake your head no, and I've got a yeah. Could you give me an example why it does matter? Yeah? 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 I thought, yeah, I know, I get that. It's not quite what I was thinking you were going to say, but no, it does time of day. Yeah, go for it. Well, why though? That's the thing. So it doesn't really matter which is which. So, for instance, if we say the independent is the x-axis and the dependent is the y-axis, that's fine. I think that sort of makes sense. The one you choose is the independent. Yeah? The dependent one is then what you plot up. That sort of makes sense. But does it matter which one's called which? So I thought you were going to say about time of day and temperature. So for instance, if I look at it, as the day progresses, the temperature goes up or down, yeah? It is the time of day or other things that happen that causes the temperature to change, yeah? Now, does it make sense to say, if the temperature changes, the time of day changes? You just have to say it to yourself. It's like, oh, that doesn't make sense. So, if I want an extra hour's sleep in the morning, I'll just stick the AC on, because that'll cool it all down, and that makes time go backwards, right? Suddenly you're like, no, temperature is not affecting the time of day. The time of day is affecting the temperature. Yeah? The age of the tree one, with the size of it, as the tree ages, it gets bigger, right? Now, if I say the bigger the tree, the older it is, that still makes sense. So it's a bit of a grey area. So let's go with the ice cream sales and the temperature. How many people in the middle of winter are going, I wish it was a bit warmer? What's that there now? So how do we make it warmer? Sell some ice creams. Right? Because ice creams are impacted. So if I want it to be warmer, I just need to sell more ice creams. That doesn't make sense, does it? But it does make sense that if it's warmer, I will sell more ice cream. So quite often it does matter which one's which. Right? The more concentration you have in class, the better you will do. Right? You don't have to do better to have more concentration. It doesn't work that way. All right. So it can matter. Is there any time, do you think, when they are a bit interchangeable? There was one example, I think, especially in the work I gave you last time, where it was kind of interchangeable. It didn't matter which was which. Do you remember? It was to do with school subjects. Do you remember the question? The English and maths results. Is there a relationship? Well, there could be. I would say students that are really good at maths, well, you could argue that they're just good students, so they're going to be good at English as well, right? If they're not great at maths, maybe they're just not great students, so they're not good at English. There are always going to be exceptions, right? I'm not saying they're not exceptions. But is it true that to be good at English, you have to be good at maths? It could be the other way around, right? That makes perfect sense. So sometimes it doesn't matter so much, but we do put which one we decide is the independent does go on the x-axis, and the one dependent goes on the y-axis. Okay, have you done that sketch in your notes? Just quickly, make sure you've got that. Good. Right. Sketch what you think a scatter plot would look like if, it doesn't matter what the exact numbers are, but what do you think it would look like if I went round, okay, and looked at favourite colour and gender? There we go. And I put that on a scatter. Favourite colour and gender. So they're my two variables. What do you think your scatter plot would look like? Just do a rough sketch. What do you think? Back into the. What do you think that might end up looking like? struggling to think about how it would look, that's because those two variables are not great for putting on a scatter plot. So I think AJ said something sensible. Probably use a different chart for that. But what if I were to do it? Okay, let me new page. If I were, so there's a couple of issues. Right, let's do my scatter plot. If we do gender with choice of colour, which do you think we could go for the independent variable? Or which one's dependent? What do you choose? Favourite colour would be which? Which do you think depends on which? Colour on the... Okay, so we would go for choice of colour, right, gender. So, what are my options? Let's go for some options for colour. Purple. Black. Red or blue? Blue. I should put red above blue, just based on yesterday's result. Just saying. Anyone else? What? White. Okay, that's a few colours. And on here, gender, we would put male and female. Keep it simple at the moment. We could have other options, I guess, but we'll just keep it simple. Right, there's a first comment that you can make about both of those things that I've just put on the axis, which is what? So I made a comment based on the football result that I'm going to put red above blue. But what could you argue? Nothing? Do colours have to go in that order? No. Right? They could be in any order you like. AJ made a point. He's like, I think Peter as well. He said it could change. If I change those orders round, I change my whole graph, right? What about the male and female as well? I can swap them around, yeah? So how am I supposed to notice a correlation if I can write it however I want? Also, okay, let's say that the males all liked red and blue. Sorry, it's a bit of an angle, it shouldn't be, should it? And the females liked purple, black, and some white. Would I basically just end up with two columns? Like AJ said, it's probably better off if it's bar charts, right? So I would just get columns of dots. I wouldn't actually have a scatter plot at all. Okay? This data type, this is something for you to write down. Okay? This is called categorical data. Anyone recognise that word categorical linked with another word? Categories, good. So categorical data is when we've got in categories. And categorical data doesn't really work very well on scatter plots because you can change it around. Okay? So we'll talk about the other data type which does work on scatter plots. That's something I already knows. We'll do that another time. So I'm aware I'm talking a lot. Okay. So categorical data is not going to work very well on a scatter plot. It doesn't work. So that's the wrong type of chart. Could I get you, again, another 5 minutes, so I stop talking. Could you come up with a couple of sets of variables that are categorical data that you would not use a scatter plot for? Just write them down. So examples of what you think would be categorical data. So obviously gender, male and female, and favourite colour is just a list of colours. Could you come up with some other things that you might compare in that way? Just give a couple of examples where scatter plots are not appropriate. So I would say a scatter plot is not appropriate. Or categorical data.